Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and master certified life coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, today's episode is all about your limiting beliefs as a midlife gal. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast Women in the Middle. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your master certified coach and midlife mentor, and I am so glad to be here with you again for this week's episode, which is about your mindset, your thoughts, your beliefs that might just be keeping you small, bored, and unadventurous. Is this you, or has this been you? Do you notice you have some thoughts about what you should be doing now at your age, or what you shouldn't be doing anymore now that you're older? We are going to go into all of this today as we curiously dig around in this whole topic. But just quick, before we dive into that, I have another free gift for you. It's called 12 Obvious Signs That You're Ready for an Exciting Change in Midlife. It is perfect for you when you think you might need a change, or you're curious about feeling stuck, but you might just not be sure what to do or where to go next to make things happen in your life. This will be really helpful for you because you're going to learn about the 12 obvious signs. You're also going to learn about what you're not doing that you really want to do. You're going to understand why it's important to think about what you want and make that exciting change. And you're going to discover how to make sure that you take the next steps to regret-proof your life. So many of us feel stuck and confused, but don't know if making a change is the answer or not. The first step is understanding what's going on up there in your mind and why you're feeling the way you do. No one should waste their valuable time on this planet feeling afraid of having regrets. So this free guide is waiting for you at www.susierosenstein.com/12 signs. The link, of course, will be in the show notes, and you can download it at that link. It is waiting for you, like I said, so enjoy. Okay, now, when I started talking about what you should be doing now at your age, or what you shouldn't be doing anymore now that you're older, I wonder what kinds of things popped into your head. Was it something about physical limitations, like maybe you shouldn't jump out of a plane now, something like that? As your midlife coach, I love looking at both sides of the should. What I mean is thinking about what you think you should do and shouldn't do anymore, because it can kind of be a sneak attack on your thoughts. It helps you gain insight into what's really going on up there in your beautiful mind. Do you follow? When you think about what you shouldn't do, it's pretty clear that there can be a limiting belief worthy of exploration. Here's an example of what I mean when your curiosity can lead to a sneaky, useful insight. Like if you think something like, I think my skirt should be a little longer these days, for example. Then you can see what else you think too. The other side of the should is the shouldn't. You might also think that you shouldn't wear shorts or a skirt that's too short anymore, right? So what you should do might be related to what you shouldn't do. I love examples like this that help you see what you're really thinking. So when you think about what you should do, you've pretty much revealed the other side of the should. If you think you should do X, you probably know what you think you shouldn't do too. This is useful because it's often easier to see one side or the other. And why it's important at all is because a lot of this kind of thinking is on autopilot. It's just the way you've been thinking about the world for ages. Becoming more mindful in midlife helps you become more intentional. And that, my friend, is gold, because then you're actively regret-proofing your life. Here's the thing. There are no right or wrong answers to these kinds of beliefs and thoughts. It's about what's right for you. But you will likely notice that some of your thoughts and beliefs may not be useful to you and your goals. That's why it's so important to figure out what you really think on purpose now at your age as an amazing woman in the middle. I'm going to introduce a variety of topics for you to think about. You can decide where you are on the meter, the cool meter, the fun meter, the I don't care what people think meter, the discomfort meter, the risk-averse meter, and so on. Whatever it is, it's fine as long as it serves you, as long as it's useful to you accomplishing your goals. Here are the categories we're going to take a look at: clothes, activities, thoughts, and new beginnings. Remember, no right or wrong answers, just your thoughts and whether or not they serve you. Let's start easy with things that you think you might be too old to wear. Clothes. What comes up for you about clothes? I already mentioned the length of your skirt or shorts. Is that something that comes up for you? What do you think? Are you too old to wear shorter skirts and skirts? Perhaps above the knee or several inches above the knee? This one is a personal one for me. Being self-conscious about my legs was not something that ever affected me in my life. Anyway, unlike many other parts of my body, like my legs were muscular. And so I always enjoyed wearing skirts. Like, they're kind of my summer uniform. I just love them so much. And you can usually even find them at Costco. So like skirts are easier and easier to find these days. But in the last 2 years or so, around the time I turned 60, I started to feel a bit more self-conscious about wearing the few skirts that I had that were a little shorter. I noticed myself thinking that I might be too old for this. I noticed that when I sat down, the skirt got even shorter, and something about the whole situation changed. I started to feel uncomfortable. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answer, no judgment, but I'm noticing my thoughts are changing a little bit. I'm noticing that about me. The question is, does this thought serve me? And do your thoughts serve you? When you think it, if you think it, does it support you and help you out in terms of creating the experience that you want? If you're not sure, ask yourself why you're thinking this way, and you might surprise yourself. Then you can think about the answer, whatever your answer was, and decide if you're okay with it or not. Do you like that reason for thinking that thought? If so, there's not a disconnect. But if your answer is off, you don't like hearing your rationale, you don't like what you're actually thinking behind the thought, then you have awareness now that can help you be more intentional. You can apply this to all kinds of thoughts related to clothing and style and everything. For example, you might have thoughts about bathing suits or bikinis, or certain bold, loud colors, like wearing that kind of stuff anymore, or something with really large prints. Maybe it's the most recent style trend. Maybe you have opinions or thoughts about that. Even if you loved this before when you were younger, do you still think that it's okay to wear now? You can wear anything you want. I'm just trying to help you look for thoughts, right? Going without a bra in certain situations, that's another one. And maybe wearing underwear that's more about being practical over being pretty. And if you're a long-term listener, you may recall that I have a lot to say about your panties. Check out episode 306, Underwear, Self-Care, and You in Midlife, if you're curious about that topic. So what should you be wearing? What do you think? Is it serving you? Just get curious. Now let's talk about thoughts. Thoughts about things you think you're too old to think. Now, the one I want to raise your awareness about here is your willingness to push yourself, to open up to dreaming big. Yes, now at your age. Do you think you're too old for this kind of thinking? Do you believe that the best just might be yet to come? Do you think that your best years are ahead of you? Do you think that it's okay to finally put yourself first? Where are you on this continuum? Is it easy for you to believe that you can allow yourself to go for it, whatever it is? Or do you think you're too old to go for it, to push yourself, to put yourself first, and believe that the best is still available to you, possible to you, for you? With this concept, I find that so many of us midlife gals think we think this way, but truth be told, we don't. Could it be that you don't really believe that you can still dream big and set goals like that at your age? That is over 50, over 60, over 70 or more? Again, there's no right or wrong answer, unless it's wrong for you, in that it gets in the way of your personal goals and limits what you're capable of doing. It doesn't help you in pursuit of your dreams. Your homework is to be curious. Ask yourself why you think the way you're thinking and if you like your reasons. Okay, the next category is activities. Let's look at the things that you think you're too old to do. Quick, what came up for you? Was it something like starting something new? Maybe going back to school? Maybe starting a new career? Or maybe even dating again? Does it feel scary? Do you worry about judgment or rejection or being a beginner or being vulnerable? Or what about going out of your way to make new friends? Are you too old for this? Or do you love the idea of getting to know more people and investing time and energy in new relationships? What should you do? What shouldn't you do? Are you limiting yourself? Maybe it's some kind of travel, especially adventure travel. I hear these sorts of things a lot from my private clients and in the Women in the Middle Happiness Academy. It is so common. I wonder what your limiting beliefs might be. Do you think you're too old to do these kinds of things? Be honest with yourself. You may have a few wonky thoughts kicking around up there. With trying new things or making a big change, fear is often the emotion that comes up a lot. And with adventure travel, it's common to have some concerns about your physical ability, either what you're capable of or if you get hurt or sick. Will you be in a place where you can get help? I've been fortunate to do a few adventure travel type trips. One was a 6-day whitewater rafting trip in the Grand Canyon, sleeping on open air cots at night, porta potty action, and peeing in the freezing Colorado River, the works. I think there were about 23 guests plus 5 guides on 2 large rafts that looked more like barges to me. Didn't look like a raft that you're familiar with. It was such an amazing trip, and my friend, there were at least 4 or 5 guests in their mid to late 70s. This was some intense rafting. By the way, men and women in their late 70s. It was really intense, and they totally impressed me. They didn't have a thought that they were too old to do this, that's for sure. I also did a trip with a group in Costa Rica. My kids were on this trip. I think there were maybe 17 of us and a guide, something like that. My husband and I and one other couple, we were probably the oldest. There were more 20s and 30s people on the trip. It was about 12 or 13 years ago, and we went to the ziplining place that was massive. The zip line was not just at the treetops. There was a huge canyon that we zipped across at the height of about 600 feet over the forest canopy. And the cable was about 3,400 feet long. Like, it was a big, wide space, and we were very high up. I didn't know what I didn't know. And as I lined up for my turn, these really nice biologists from the UK in their 30s, these sweet women, were on the trip. And they looked at me and they said, "Wow, your kids must be so proud of you because you're such a cool mom to do this." And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so nice. Maybe this is a cool mom thing to do. And I think I spoke too soon. Somewhere along the line, pun intended, my speed on that zip line slowed down. Again, this zip line wasn't at treetop level. Like, we were so much higher than that. High enough that things started to look tiny, really tiny way down below. And then my speed stopped altogether. I got stuck up there, 600 feet up, by myself, dangling in the wind. I had to be rescued. I was literally dangling with the wind blowing and turning me around. I was alone and scared to death. Honestly, I was scared to death. I closed my eyes and I just waited there, dangling in fear. Thankfully, a zipline guy came out. He had to pull me back. Like, he had to use his legs to like a belt around me and to save me and to pull me back. But he did zip me back to safety. Ugh. This is definitely one of the scariest things that has ever happened to me. Having to get rescued, my kids just make fun of me for that. For sure, they did not see how scared I was. They somehow found humor in the whole situation. But I realized a few important things after the whole scenario, after things calmed down. 1, I don't feel the need for speed anymore in my life. 2, I don't feel the need for unnecessary, scary heights anymore. And 3, if I didn't think it before, I think it now. I'm too old for recreation that scares me. I like my reasons. This thought serves me. I want my optional recreation to feel fun. I don't need that thrill of fear. This zipline experience didn't do it for me, and I'll never forget it, and I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad we have evidence of it on my son's GoPro camera because my eyes were closed for most of it. The moral of the story, though, is to be curious, be intentional, and raise your awareness of what you might regret. I think at that time, I would have regretted not going. I opted out of another part of the trip that my husband and the boys did, but I didn't want to do. But this I wanted to do, but I really didn't know what I didn't know. I had no clue it was going to be that high. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about new beginnings. This is about what you might think you're too old to trying new things. Does anything come to mind right away? You might have some strong opinions about this category. Do you think you're too old for extreme sports, like skydiving? Or what about using a dating app? Do you think you're too old for that? Or dyeing your hair blue, like doing something really different with a bright hair dye? Do you do that? Or getting a tattoo or a belly button piercing? Is that something you think you want to do? Are you too old to do that? Do you think you should be doing that? What about everyone's favorite thing to try? Public speaking. Do you think you should try that? What about other kinds of performing, like being on stage in a play, or trying stand-up comedy, or singing in a choir, or playing in a band? Do you want to try that? Here's one I hear a lot about in my community of midlife gals: traveling alone. Do you think you're too old to try that? What are you thinking? Did any of your thoughts surprise you? It's so interesting to discover what you have strong thoughts and feelings about anyway, right? And as I mentioned, there's no right or wrong answer. It's what is right for you. And there's really no limit on age. It's personal. It depends on what makes you happy, how you handle risk, and what you want to do, think, or try to regret-proof your life. The important thing is to be aware of your limiting beliefs. They can surprise you. They certainly surprised me over the years. You can keep them if you want to, but I encourage you to be curious and just poke around. Do you still want to think the thoughts you're thinking? Do they help you get to the goals that you care about? There's a big world out there and a lot of life to have fun exploring. It's really up to you and what you want to think on purpose. Now that's it for this episode. The Women in the Middle podcasts are all about how to love your life again after 50 and to be more intentional about your life. The focus is on coaching you to incorporate mindfulness as a regular practice. This is how you put yourself on your agenda, my friend. My focus as your midlife coach is to help you get unstuck, clear, and focused on your current values and priorities so you don't have regrets. I can help you create the success you're looking for, because life is just too short to waste time spinning and thinking about what you can't do instead of what you can do. That's why I created the Women in the Middle Happiness Academy with you in mind, because it's a warm, supportive, and fun coaching community of like-minded women who embrace the gift of aging and grow forward together. It is totally possible to feel great about your roadmap to a more fun, meaningful, and regret-free next chapter. I want this for you too, so let's talk about it and see if the Academy makes sense for you this year. Apply and let's have a conversation about what your roadmap will look like. Book your free no-obligation consult momentum call at www.womeninthemiddleacademy.com. There are exciting new bonuses that you're not going to want to miss. And finally, for show notes and links, head over to www.susierosenstein.com and click the podcast tab and look for episode 394. You're also going to see links there for my new show, Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs. So thanks so much for listening. It is time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. I'm Susie Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you next week.